Let's go. The world getting crazy, baby, chill. Don't medicate, just meditate. You waking up now, well, baby, you hella late. Educate, look at what's going on, let it resonate, accelerate. Find your inner hunger like you never ate. Agenda is to push the hate. Separate and segregate, don't celebrate quite yet. The storm is coming, cue for heaven's sake. Violence that they demonstrate, instigate and penetrate the values of our country. And our God is what they desecrate. My fighters ain't no featherweight, pulling out the seams of the fabric that they fabricate. They feed us lies, manipulate, intimidate through fear and force, forcing us to sit and wait till we come together, congregate, and then we liberate. Praying that you give me strength to find some love amongst the hate. Marching on the streets of blood till I see the golden gates. Troubadour, troubled souls, one of God's servants. Blades out, cut the grass till we see the serpents.
One day I hope you see the truth. This puppet show, it stays on because of you fools. We've been dancing with the devil way too long. I know it's fun, but get ready to pay your dues. Oh God, come back home. This crazy world is filled with liars and abusers. We need you now before we're too far gone. I hope one day they finally see the truth.
Welcome to Patriot Nightcap, Sunday night, where we premiere at 8 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. Guys, I'm so excited right now. I have Shemane Nugent on. You are just so vibrant, Shemane.
Oh,
awesome.
You're so sweet.
I'm just so happy to connect with you. We spoke a little bit beforehand, and I'm like so excited. My brother interviewed you recently. I immediately texted him. I'm like, David, you got to help me out here. I have to talk to Shemane. So, author of a New York best-selling book, Married to a Rock Star. Also, 4 Minutes to Happy. Like, you have a few books out there that I did.
A few books, yeah. Ted and I we co-wrote a wild game cookbook called Kill It and Grill It. That was a New York Times bestseller. And then I did Married to a Rock Star and 4 Minutes to Happy. So
fantastic. Also, you wrote and directed your film, right? Killer House, which can be found on killerhouse.org. That's really something to write and direct something, right? That's a labor of love when you're doing the whole, like, covering every aspect of it. But I really want to get into that because that's a fascinating story. And then you have this online community called Wildly Well at shemanenugent.rocks, which I looked at and I love, and I'm joining. Folks, you've got to join. And I love that you have sprinkled in there the Bible verses and whatnot. So I think that's amazing. You're also, can I call you a huntress?
Yeah. Hunter, huntress, whatever. Yeah.
I've got my camo on.
Good for you. Oh, good for you. I'm not wearing any camo, but yeah. Right. But yeah, I've been talking to David now for a couple of years. I can't believe he didn't introduce us earlier. Like, what? Like, we are two peas in a pod, kind of. You know, we've just been talking, and we do have so much in common. So I can't wait to get to know you. I want to have you on my show as well.
Thank you. I would love that. And I've been telling David, I'm like, we need more women out there. We need, we do. We need more women to come out and find their voice. And
part of the problem is I had a voice, but I got permanently suspended from Twitter.
That's a problem.
And my husband, Ted, is not. So there was a time, honestly, when, we went and visited President Trump at the White House with Sarah Palin and Kid Rock. We spent like 4 hours there with him. And I posted some photos of that. I got so much backlash. I got hate. I mean, it would take me hours and hours. I don't have a team of people. I did all my social media then, and I was just delete. And it kind of, made me think, is it really worth it to put my voice out there? So I didn't for a long time. And I haven't been really outspoken about hunting, but honestly, because of what's been going on the past couple of years, now more than ever, I am a proud hunter. We're not going to we're not going to starve. We pretty much live off the land. We have a very different lifestyle, but you know, and going back to the God thing, I've never been more spiritual and have a closer relationship with God. I study the Bible as often as I can, but you know, I feel like I could never get enough. And so, yeah, my Wildly Well program, I created the program that I wanted to have. And you know, there's fitness, there's online workout programs you can do. And during the lockdown, I was doing them because couldn't go to the gym. And I've been teaching group fitness since 1980. And when they asked me to come back to teach at the gym, when the gyms were just opening during the pandemic, they said, yeah, but you got to wear a mask. And I went, yeah, not going to happen. So I just started working on my own, and I started uncovering a lot of things. That's how David and I got connected. And I just went down this rabbit hole, and I found the spiritual, you know, connection with God. That's just, I got goosebumps right now. Like, I feel like our voices matter, and our mission is to share the gospel. So whatever I'm doing, I'm not afraid to talk about it. Whereas before I used to be. So
isn't that funny? Like, but I feel like certain events have, you know, obviously been occurring where we've been shut down, and you know, especially women and girls. You know, I have a little girl, which incidentally, I have to tell you, her whole life, every year in school, I'm like, honey, what do you want to be? You know, you write it on the chalkboard, and she's like, Mommy, I want to be an archery person. I'm like,
seriously?
Oh, really? I'm like, okay, well, how come? She's like, she loved Princess Merida, you know, with the bow and arrow, the whole thing. I'm like, okay, that's super cute. Finally, lately, she's like, no, Mommy, today I asked her, I go, remember when you would always tell me that? And she's like, no, Mommy, I don't think they make any money. I'm like, okay, you're right. You're probably right. She's a competitive gymnast in her own right and everything. So, but yeah, so anyway, so when I see men competing in women's sports, you know, and this whole thing, Shemane, I'm like, what is happening right now? How did we get so shut down and, quite frankly, thrown back in medieval times? You know what I'm...
Well, to me, I feel like it's all a distraction. There's a movie called Wag the Dog with Robert De Niro years ago, and Anne Heche, I think her name is. And it was about creating a war so that it would distract people from what's really going on.
Really going on, yeah.
Nobody's talking about that laptop. I'm not sure what I can say on here, but
I know
about that laptop from hell. And nobody's talking about, you know, we're so consumed with this me generation. A quick story that this started happening to us years ago. I swam competitively when I was a kid, and I was a state champion swimmer 2 times. And so when I had my son, I was going to teach him how to swim, right?
Right.
So when he was 7 years old, I enrolled him on the YMCA swim team, and he got into a novice swim meet, meaning you couldn't have competed in any other swim meets ever. And they would take more time on the starting block and things like that. And so Rocco's my son, and he swam, and of course he won. He was awesome because, like, you know, it's my son. I gave him some tips.
Of course.
And so when it came time for him to pick up his trophy, there were the names. First place, Rocco Nugent, no trophy. Second place, you know, he got a trophy. Third place. And so I went to the person in charge. I said, well, how come my son, he won, he didn't get a trophy? And they said, oh, can you come with us? So they brought us to this room, and they sat down across from Rocco and I, this gentleman from the YMCA in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And he said, here's the problem, Rocco. You swam too fast, and it wasn't fair to the other kids.
No.
Yeah.
You've got to be.
No. I mean, no, the way my attitude and demeanor is now, I would have said things differently. But back then I'm like, are you kidding? You know, this is not fair. What are you going to give him instead of a trophy? And I'm not kidding. He had this stack of comic books, and he pushed it in front of Rocco, and he goes, well, you can have these.
Oh my.
So we've been spoon fed this agenda for years. It's been coming on slowly, and it's really prevalent now. It's everywhere. And, you know, our feelings are much more important than what's right and wrong.
Than the truth.
Yep.
Than the truth. You know, I had Sean Stone on here on my last interview.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, what's your advice to parents? He's like, get them out of public school. So I'm looking at schools and I'm doing, but that was the first, because I moved from New York, Shemane, to Arizona because it got a little crazy out there. And when I got here, I said, okay, I'm going to do my due diligence. I'm going to, you know, interview the principals, but you're right. It's like a conditioning, you know, that has been happening over the years where everybody gets an award or it's not fair. And it's just bizarre to me. I'm like, I was not raised that way. And I don't know what is happening right now. You know, so anytime my daughter earns an award, and she really does, because judges are judging her, I'm like, and there's no better feeling, right? Than when you earn something for yourself. I'm like, congratulations, honey. You earned it. I did not hand this to you.
Yep.
What happened to that mentality?
Yeah. You know? I mean, I'm sure they're teaching their children that in China, don't you think?
Well, there you go. Oh God, there you go.
I mean, yeah, it's a shame. We're ruining this generation, and I'm fearful there's no turning back. But the good news is, I mean, if there is something good to come out of all of this nightmare, is that people are waking up. People are seeing what their kids are learning or not learning from the Zoom calls that they had to do, you know, online learning, and people are pulling their kids out of school. You know, let's see how that works for public school systems. I homeschooled my son two separate occasions for 2 years. And you know what, you do have to have a different mentality, but I loved it. Like I really did. It was like, I got to spend more time with him. And then I would, I would be teaching, like I found a community, and this was 20 years ago. I found another community that we were getting together, the moms, and I'm not good in math and science. And there was another mom who was, so she would take the kids twice a week and do that. Yeah. I would teach English and phys ed, and, you know, we'd have a blast.
I had time with my daughter at home as well when the whole insanity broke out and they were getting into their face diapers, and I was told to stand in my circle and this whole thing. And I said, okay, you people have lost your minds. And so I took her home and I did this, and I loved having that time with her. It was terrific. Yeah. But then finally, after around 6 or 7 months, I started to feel a little sad. I mean, I knew there were pods and stuff of people, but then we moved. So then everything was taken care of. But I just remember starting to feel kind of bad for her, because it was like, oh, that's PE and she's on a Zoom doing PE.
Are you kidding?
In the backyard with a jumping rope. And then I would just say, listen, honey, just go downstairs and do your gymnastics. We built like a little gym for her. But you know, the whole socializing aspect of it has just started to concern me after a while. Like, she had her gymnastics, but ultimately I feel like, you know, she's back in school. But yeah, we're kind of looking into some other options right now. But I want to pivot right now and talk a little bit about the importance of going toxin free, because we talked about this a little bit, an entire community over here that is that, you know, Patriot Nightcap, it's our sanctuary. You know, we're voting with our dollars. We're redirecting what we're already spending, and we've gone toxin free. And I can't tell you how many stories I've heard, you know, about people getting sick in their own homes because we're conditioned to think we have to inhale these toxic fumes. Like, oh, it's not clean unless we're smelling all of this toxic fume stuff. And then I watched your story on killerhouse.org, and I'm like, oh my God, you have like the story of all stories. If you would share that with us a little bit, because I just think it's terrifying. Like, people don't realize until they get really sick.
Yeah.
Just how serious this can get.
I think I was so athletic. I was at one point Detroit's most physical female, and I had been teaching group fitness classes since 1980. And I traveled all over the world for Zumba training instructors. But there was a time back in 2000 when my husband and I and our son Rocco, we all would have these random illnesses. My son always had digestive problems. He had sore throats, stomach problems. Mm-hmm. He had a pterygium in his eye. Ted and I would have just.
What is a pterygium? I have to ask. What's
a pterygium? Is a growth in your eye. and it just
Like a
literally
sign?
can, yeah,
Okay.
it will come. It's like, it might look like a red eye, but
Okay.
I had asked the doctor, like, how do you get those? And he said, well, usually people who are looking at the sun for a long period of time, outdoors, working outdoors, get them, or it's a toxin. So that, it's not like you can say, okay, like I break my arm. Wow, my bone is sticking out of my skin. I've got to go to the hospital. What
Right.
happened to us is we were slowly getting sickened by our home and we didn't even know it. I had debilitating migraines. I couldn't walk up a flight of stairs. And here I am, a group fitness instructor.
Right.
And we finally discovered that our home that was once featured on MTV Cribs was contaminated with toxic mold between the walls. We never saw anything. We just kept getting sicker and sicker. And we were traveling. My husband was touring a lot back then. And so when we traveled, we felt better. When we come home, supposed to be your place of refuge, we felt terrible, could not sleep. And I finally had to become my own investigative sleuth.
Mhm.
And we discovered, this was back in the year 2000, 2001. Nobody was talking about toxic mold. So I was kind of a pioneer. There was the Melinda Ballard case that happened here in Texas. And I remember thinking, wow, she was awarded at one point 34 or $32 million. And I remember thinking, because her whole
Mhm.
house was contaminated, she, her husband, and her child all got sickened. And I remember thinking, awesome, because let me ask you this. What is your life worth right
Right.
now? If you had to put a price tag on your life and what that means to your family, your
Mhm.
child's life, but then it ended up getting knocked down to 4 million, and Melinda and her husband both ended up passing away. And again, it's a slow killer, toxic mold. And that's why I felt this nudging from God that I decided to create a documentary. And I'm hoping to turn it into a series, because I've only tapped the surface. At
Mhm.
killerhouse.org, I just talk about my story. And I continually get people reaching out to me and direct messaging saying, I'm dying. What do I do? How do I help my child? I've seen people who are paralyzed from this.
Oh my God.
So it's
Mhm.
constantly being, mold illness is constantly being misdiagnosed as, inflammation in the body, fibromyalgia. Nobody wants to get flu-like symptoms right now, but
Mhm.
upper respiratory illnesses and digestive problems and
Mhm.
skin rashes, like everything can be
Everything.
related to toxic mold.
And I went on to your site and I listened to the myths that you had on the videos. Like that's highly effective. I lived in a townhouse community in Westchester for, I don't know, a couple of years. And I'm telling you, Shemane, I couldn't stop coughing. I had a cough, I think that lasted 2 years. Okay. I always had bronchitis. I was like, what? And I knew, I said, my God, I think it's something in where we're living. Meanwhile, my husband was fine. My daughter got sick occasionally, and I was also going in and out of the city. So I thought, well, maybe it's like the pollution from the city, but I was convinced, because like there were nights I was like, ugh, like I think I'm dying. And you know what? Since we've moved out of there, guess what? I'm fine. You
Yeah.
know? So I think,
Yeah.
but so having been in real estate, I guess here's my question to you. When you moved into that house, did you have an inspection, and did they, obviously they didn't test for mold, or you didn't ask for
Well,
it? I don't even know, but I feel like if there water damage, or was there any musty smells when you moved in?
no. So we built the house.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
And,
Oh,
here's the other thing. I'm going to tell you, this just came out. We didn't want it to come out. We didn't want to have to do it. So the MTV Cribs house was 2002 when that happened, and we got sick. We moved to Texas. We demolished the house because one mold spore is 1/100th the size of human hair, and its natural defense mechanism is to propagate 1,000,000 times.
wow.
And I got so sick that the house, by that time, they didn't know what they were doing. Mold got everywhere in the ductwork, all over everything. We walked away from the home with just the clothes on our backs and then got rid of those.
Wow.
And then, so now, I know what to do, right? Well, it happened to us again here in Texas
What?
with one home. So we built just 2 years ago, we built this home that I'm in now. And we went to the builder and said, look, I almost died from this. I was in the hospital for a month with pre-emphysema and I don't smoke.
Right.
Don't, build us a house that doesn't leak. Do you know, before we moved into this house, we had 4 water leaks.
No.
So there's many problems. One of the problems is that contractors don't care. They have very little guidance and education about building homes that don't have moisture wicking properties, and they don't really care. I mean, we had to take off 18 inches, and this is when we knew what we were doing. We had to take off 18 inches of rock around the entire house, 6,200 square feet, and reinstall the flashing because of the thing that we actually told our builder, install the flashing right. That's what happened to our house in Michigan. And he did the thing that we asked him not to do. He didn't install the flashing right. So they don't care. There's mismanagement.
Oh my goodness. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Shemane, I think I lost you. Hold on a second here. Okay. Okay. Slight Wi-Fi interruption. Who knows? No, but the contractors not caring. And then you had this almost like the whole thing start over again.
Yeah. So it happened to us again in this house that we're in right now. And the problem is that the building community, while I believe that there are some good builders out there, I haven't met any, but in our state, in Texas, you can just go, pass a test and become a contractor, and you don't have to have a lot of education. So unfortunately, even though like people have said, well, didn't you watch what they were doing? I was here every day. When somebody's pounding a nail, you're just assuming they're using the right nail and the right hammer.
And the right materials, but then, maybe they're not. This is a really good lesson, because I would think the same thing. I'd be like, okay, that, that's their job. But so what do? You have to, you really have to reach out.
Well, if I were to do it all over again, if I were to build a house, and I can't imagine, I know a couple of people who are building a house right now, which is crazy because of all the skyrocketing prices with lumber and materials and everything else. But I would hire, now you might think this is excessive, I would hire another contractor that's totally, maybe even in another city, not connected, doesn't even know your builder at all. I would have him supervise and ask questions and just be there all the time. Why are you doing that? What are you doing that? What about that? Because we don't know, that's like saying, going to, I don't know how to, I mean, I know how to make a cake, but if I'm going to a bakery, I don't know what their specific ingredients are.
Right.
And I think unfortunately need to get somebody who can give you an educated second opinion.
Yes. And don't go cheap on the inspection. Probably, I'm guessing, have somebody come in.
Well, the other problem is the inspectors are in bed with the builders.
Yeah. Right.
And that happens all too often.
Shemane, that's true. And this is why, just having had some real estate, whatever experience myself for many years, I would always refer out 4 or 5 people, because I'm like, I don't want there to be it's for someone to turn around and say, oh, you were just referring your guy. I'm like, no, here's 4 or 5 people. You decide what you want to spend. But it's also like medically, right? You have to know what test to ask for, because, right?
Yeah, that's the problem. And as far as if you're talking about mold illness, there are so many different. I mean, I could tell you, I know there's an A-list couple, I could say, who they had asked. They had found out about our home, and they were friends with Ted, and Ted said, well, let you talk to Shemane, and she knows all about mold. And I got on the phone with them and I said, let me read your mold report. And it was bad. It was horrible.
And they wouldn't have known any better? Were they just like, are you serious?
They ended up selling the home.
Oh, wow. Maybe
so the problem is, there's no standard. We need to change the building codes. We need to change We need to have more regulation. And I mean, I'm not for big government and people watching over you, but you know, the mold in military housing is despicable.
Right.
It's happening all the time. I mean, you send your kids to school 8 hours a day. And I remember after I got out of the hospital and I was basically so detoxified. I went to the Environmental Health Center in Dallas that we did functional medicine like vitamin IV. I was doing this was in 2003. I've been doing vitamin IV, infrared sauna, oxygen, a daily massage, which didn't suck, but changed my diet. You know, that was for lymphatic drainage and everything. So I got so detoxed, so cleaned out that I could smell everything. I became the canary in a coal mine. And I remember coming home.
It's like being pregnant and you have like all your senses are heightened and you're like,
yeah. And it's called multiple chemical sensitivity, that I can walk into a freshly painted room and I can tell if you used regular paint with VOC, volatile organic compounds, low VOC, which is a couple notches, or no VOC paint.
My goodness.
So we took extra precautions in this house. We had to have no VOC paint because once you get sensitized to things like toxic mold, and even I'll tell you that people who have had Lyme disease, the Lyme spirochete is very similar to the mold mycotoxin, where it can lay dormant in your organs for months or even years. And then let's say you have some type of a physical or emotional situation that it literally just shakes your body up, exacerbates that mold mycotoxin or Lyme spirochete, and you get those symptoms again. Because, you know, maybe you haven't had this, but I have. People say something to you and you're like, it hurts your feelings, but it also hurts your physical body. And that physiological effect has an effect on your body's organs. And, you know, the mind, body, spirit, I think is really important. So I'm writing a book right now that mirrors my documentary, but I go into so much more in depth about healing the body, mind, and spirit, because you can look good. You know, I was talking to this about David that, you know, you can have all kinds of muscles and you could be great shape, but you could be miserable inside, or you don't feel good. So it's a, you know, it's a whole body approach to health.
Yes. This is, I love that, because so many people do forget, I think, about the spirit. You know, we do. And David and I, we actually joke sometimes because he's like, oh, you're not getting a Zoom ASS, are you? Because I'm just sitting around Zooming all day. I'm like, no, I go do my theory. You know,
I know, like you got it every day.
But it's true. Listen, I read my, you know, my Jesus calling, and it's like I have to.
I have that. Myself. I have that somewhere.
Yeah. It's like the daily journal, right?
Yes. I have like I'm pretty much, I'm a book whore. I have
me too. One of my
love Patriots. Books. I have that book though somewhere. I think it might be in my bedroom.
It's great. One of my Patriots, Liz Bascom, actually gave this, told me, I was like, you know, this is terrific. I can read this devotion every morning, and it sets me straight, because it is important. We can't forget about that, because you're right. You can just be working out like a fiend and thinking you're doing all the right things and just still feel so, I don't know, emotionally drained or lost.
I have another theory, and you got a few more minutes. I'll go into it.
Please. Yes. Okay. Yes.
So I'm not announcing anything that hasn't already been out there in the public. And in fact, I wrote about it in this book. This is Married to a Rock Star.
Married to a Rock Star. Yeah.
So years ago, my husband had an affair and had a child with another woman, which, as you can imagine, was devastating to me. And we just talked about having that physiological emotion, that reaction. Like there were days like I couldn't get off the floor.
Yes.
You know, and I wanted to die. And so imagine, you know, that having an effect on your body. Fast forward a couple years later, that's when what happened to me with our home. Yeah. Just when we were piecing our marriage back together, we went through counseling and everything. That's what happened. I believe that, you know, whether it's God's design that I got sick, my family got sick, I don't know. But for me, it caused me to go on this roller coaster ride down the rabbit hole where I just wanted more. I wanted to find out, what did I do wrong in this life to, have that come upon me, but it made me stronger. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Sure.
And
Right.
I think that really, I used to be a doormat. I used to let people walk all over me and say anything they wanted to me. And I would be the type of person where I was a people pleaser. I don't know if you know the Enneagram. Do you know the Enneagram?
No, what's Enneagram?
Oh, I'll have to tell you about that. It's ENNEAGRAM, the Enneagram.
Okay.
And I'm a number 2, which is actually a people pleaser.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And I would
like a personality test. Is that what it is?
Something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
And
okay.
I would rather help you than help myself. So what all of this showed me is similar to what the flight attendants say on airplane. Put the oxygen mask on yourself first before helping others. I never did that.
Okay. So I think I've always been like the eternal cheerleader. Like I understand where you're coming from. You don't want to see people unhappy. You're always trying to fix like the perfect broker. I always feel like I'm in the middle and I'm brokering everything. And that can be exhausting.
Yeah. You might be what they call a peacemaker. That's a number 9. But I feel like what's happened to me with all of this stuff, with my husband's affair and with everything else that's gone on with our house and in the world today, and as far as getting back to working out, I make time for myself. I'm not available between like 9 and 10 or 10 and 11. Like I set aside an hour for myself every day. A book just fell off. What book was that?
I feel like your house is speaking to us right now.
I know, right? But I make time for myself every day. I make me time because, if I'm not happy and healthy, I can't help anyone else.
Best advice. It's like filling up your gas tank. You have to fill yourself up emotionally in order to spend that, I mean, and that's what moms do. We multitask, we do everything. And I believe, this, whatever we're in right now, this crazy time. I feel like the mama bears are going to take, I feel like we're going to win this, like the tigers and the mama bears, because we are fierce. And my dogs just ran in. I'm sorry. Come here. But you want to see something cute though?
Yeah. Oh, I wish you would have told me you were bringing your dogs. Look at
little Shiba in you.
I have 3. I just put them in the kennels. I'm like, I don't want to be rude because they do come up. I have a German Shepherd.
I should have told you.
I have a German Shepherd who's deaf. Like she's
Sadie.
deaf.
Is that Sadie?
No, that's Coco.
Okay, Coco.
Coco is deaf. And then Sadie is, she's a lab, but she's got severe hip dysplasia. Like it looks like she's 14 when she walks. Yeah. And then Happy is a lab mix. He was a rescue. He's a lab Catahoula blackmouth cur. He climbs trees, actually.
No way. Are you serious? Oh my God.
Yeah. I'll send you a video of him climbing a tree.
I want to see that. We're fur baby mamas as well, right?
But you know what? I want to touch on that for a second. In the Bible, Esther 4:14 says, for perhaps you were born for a time such as this. I do believe that it's up to us. It's up to women in this world to go from where I was as a people pleaser to putting ourselves first, because there's nothing like a mama bear protecting her young. And that's what we need to do is we got to protect our kids with all this trafficking, this child trafficking going on, everything that's going on in the world, and face masking our kids. We have got to protect our children and safeguard them in their generation.
And this is why this is a huge part of the reason that I created this platform, because I'm like, okay, we need to get this out, and more women, we all need to speak up and speak out, because that is a powerful voice. And we do care about our kids and the world we're leaving to this generation. Oh my goodness. If we don't stand up, they're never going to be able to stand up.
Yeah, it's a shame what's happened to these poor kids.
Yeah.
And going back to the the exercise and everything, we've been feeding them a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
And one of the good things that could come out of me getting sick and almost dying, and my son getting severely ill as well. My son is a vegan. He became vegan, and he's had to change what he's eaten. So it just makes him I became a label reader. I read the label of everything, and I have to make sure that there's no MSG, there's no food dyes. Now, I say that, but I like Fritos.
Yes,
and
of course.
I like cupcakes. I'll eat the natural ones, but in chocolate chip cookies, I'll make them myself.
I'm the biggest Oreo eater around. Trust me. I know. I'm like,
I have a bad sweet tooth.
Oh God.
I think life is meant to be worth living and enjoying, but you do have to, everything in moderation.
Everything in moderation, like the Greeks, don't go too crazy, yeah, I totally agree with you on that. Your name, Shemane, we're not going to get off without talking about your name, because when you were telling my brother that your parents named you that after the character in El Cid, I was like, get out. And then of course I went, I was like looking at Burt Lancaster and Sophia Loren. So it was actually spelled Jimene, right? In the movie?
Yes.
But
and obviously that didn't translate into, American speak. So my parents put the SHE.
Yes.
And but I hadn't watched that movie until like maybe 10 years ago. Like I never watched it. I just thought that's crazy.
But it's like this love story, and but how romantic of your parents to name you that. But here's my question, because I grew up with sort of a different name. It's Tresha. And I always felt tortured by it because, in elementary school, I'm like, it's Tresha with a long E. And, when you're a kid, I was, okay, just call me Trisha. But, speaking of like getting your voice and maturing, and then you get older, and I was like, no, I love my name. And please, it's Tresha, like a tree, So did you have a problem as a kid, where did you feel like embarrassed, or like, oh, my name is different and it's, did you ever feel that way, or were you like,
oh yeah. In fact, when I was growing up though, my friends, everybody called me Shelly.
Oh, see?
Shelly, Shemane was just, nobody could get that. So it just, I don't know how, but it just turned into Shelly. And it was funny because when I met my husband, I had just started in a radio broadcasting career. I graduated from Wayne State University in Detroit in radio, TV, and film. And I was getting into radio. I was the traffic reporter for a rock and roll radio station. And guess what? I don't even like rock and roll.
Oh, this is too funny.
My husband knows that. And then Ted came in and filled in for the morning crew for a whole week.
Oh,
and that's how I met him. But on my resume, I had Shemane and then in parentheses, Shelly. And they said, well, why don't you use your real name? And I go, I don't know. We can do that. So literally like 6 months before I met Ted, that's when I really started using it professionally.
Right.
And we met October.
Such a beautiful name. And that was the first.
Thank you.
It is. And that was the first thing I thought in my mind. I have to ask her about that. Then I watched David's interview and I was like, oh, okay. That's.
It's constantly mispronounced.
I know.
And sometimes it's a pain in the neck. If I go to Starbucks and they're like, if there's a long line, I'll just put Shelly on the cup, whatever. Cause
me too. I'm like Trish, just I want to say something to you. I want to thank you for sharing what you just shared with me about what happened in your marriage, because woman to woman, when I was, in the dating field years ago, I always thought of myself as this strong woman, and I'm an alpha girl, and I'm selling condos and co-ops in New York and blah, blah, blah. Right. And I got into a pretty toxic relationship that lasted a couple of years. And I mean, running out of restaurants, jumping out of cabs. And I thought, my God, I thought I'd be the last person to deal with something like that. I mean, and you look back and you're like thankful, because it's kind of like, oh, I'll be a better mom having had that experience. You know what I mean? But I never thought that could happen to me, there was some abusiveness and verbal stuff happening, to the point where finally I got out of it. But just as women, I think it's important to share those stories and say, listen, it happens. It can happen. It can happen to anyone, not that that's happened to you. I'm just sharing, you shared and I'm sharing. And I think it's important, I think, because you evolve and it makes you who you are today. And then, you can like look back on certain experiences and learn from them, and hopefully, have the I don't know, the wisdom, the confidence to love yourself, you know?
Yeah, and I appreciate that. It's not easy going through
No.
that. And one of the things that kept us together was our son. I think it would be much different if I didn't have a small child, but I thought about him going, okay, going back and forth between mommy and daddy's house. And, ultimately we did love each other, and he wanted to work it out, which has to be the number one thing.
Right.
If one party doesn't want to work it out, then forget it. But he wanted to. And honestly, I think that it was like an equalizer for me, because if you imagine, like, okay, you know how to jump rope, right? Like you're jumping rope, there's people twirling the rope, and you're like, where do I go in? Where do I? Okay, I'm in,
Yeah.
And so you're in the jump rope, and how do you get out? How do you, that's what it was like at first when I was married to Ted. He was, huge. He was a huge rock star. And how do I fit into this? And I never did. I always felt like initially that I was just, a fly on the wall in a lot of instances. I didn't feel important, that my voice mattered. And what this did was it gave me a voice. It became an equalizer. It took a long time though, a long, long time. But Ted knows now, like we were having a conversation, and I've told David this before. I've red pilled Ted. I did. Oh yeah.
Really? That is stunning news right now.
Yeah, no, I did. And I tell him things all the time, and we have these political conversations and everything. He's like, who are you? He goes, who are you anymore? But I'm not backing down, sister.
Yeah.
Because these are such critical times. These are biblical times. And I think, again, we were born for a time such as this. It's important.
Right. I agree with you, Shemane. I praise you for being such an inspiration, and you have such a fierce voice, and yet you're so feminine, and it's so thank you. Thank you for being that. Thank you for jumping on my show. And I just want to recap a couple of things. So it's ShemaneNugent.rocks. And then also for Wildly Well, that is where you find Wildly Well.
You can find the link to, you can find the link to the Wildly Well community. We get started Sunday, but it's never too late to join. And again, it's the community that I wanted to have. Like I'm doing an online workout every week, a brand new workout. And even though I've been a Zumba fitness instructor, it's not all dance. It's like I do HIIT workouts, high intensity interval training, and they're short workouts. So you can do it in the convenience of your own home. And I do weights, I do body weights, I do stretching, I do a little bit of everything. But not only that, every day of the week, we've got something different. Monday is Motivation Monday. You'll either get audio tapes or videotapes about things that can help you get started for the week. Right. Tuesday, Toxic Tuesday, I talk about toxins in the air, soil, and water and food that you might not think about that can be harmful. Wellness Wednesday, I have the workouts. Thirsty Thursday, we have Bible study. And you can do as much of this or as little as you want. It's like go at your own pace. And then on Friday, we do Freedom Friday, take Saturday off. Sunday, we have a live Zoom call with just us. And it's a safe place, like to celebrate each other's wins. Sometimes you don't get that. No. And I want to acknowledge people who are really working hard and striving to be better and healthier.
Shemane, I'm in. I'm totally in. And an audience, you should be too. We'll have all the links provided in here on my show, Patriot Nightcap. And Shemane, thank you. Keep on rocking. And please come back, please, because I would love to do an update, and I'd love to come on your show. And yes, we have to unite.
Yes. I got your number, girl. So I'm going to be calling, and you call me anytime. Okay. Text me and tell me if you want me to come on. I'm there for you.
I would love to. And I will see you on Wildly Well. Absolutely.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Hi, everyone. I'm David Nito's sister, Tresha. I decided that the best way that I could take my power back is to not comply. I refuse to support the big box stores like Target, Costco, Amazon, Walmart, the very people who decimated mom and pop stores and their poisonous suppliers during the pandemic. and they're planning to do it again. I refuse to support them. I will not mask up and go to these stores. I can tell you for a fact that my brother, Nino, is not going to mask up and support these suppliers. We decided to hit them in the wallet, the very place that it hurts the most. We took our dollars, we redirected, think non-toxic USA products, deals, deals, deals. We created the Patriot switch. We are very proud of it. It's the most patriotic thing that we could think of to do. Thank you very much. God bless America.
We need you now. We need you now. One day, one day, one day, I hope you see the truth. This puppet show, it stays on because of you fools. We've been dancing with the devil way too long. I know it's fun, but get ready to pay your dues. Oh God, come back home. This crazy world is filled with liars and abusers. We need you now before we're too far gone. I hope one day they finally see the truth. God, we need you now.